New in 2017, my 5th edition of Trend Following. Trend Following, how to make a fortune in bull, bear, and black swan markets. This is essentially a brand new book. My first version of Trend Following, 80,000 words. The 4th edition of Trend Following, 110,000 words. This edition of Trend Following, 230,000 words. More examples, more insights, more perspective. This is absolutely the Trend Following Manifesto. It's available now. Check it out. This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Coveil. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. My guest today is John Force. He is an American NHRA drag racer. The funny cars. 330 miles an hour, 530 kilometers per hour. That's how fast he's going. Less than 4 seconds, 10,000 horsepower. This is serious driving. John is considered the best. 16-time champion. His team, 18 times champion. He is one of the most dominant drag racers in the sport with over 144 career victories. Oh, did I mention? John is 68 years young and still pushing it. You want an example? You want a life story of making it happen? No excuses, entrepreneur on fire. John Force is your guy. I hope you enjoy this conversation because damn, I can only be so envious to possibly live one little bit of the excitement that John Force has had. John, as I go through your background, and we're going to dig a little deep today, but I want to know right off the top, big picture, why you? What is propelled you? What is the drive? All these decades later, you're at the top of the field. What is the drive, John? What's the secret? We can translate your secret to all different types of walks of life. What drives you?
Number one, we all want to make a living. We got to eat. You know, at the end of the day, I truly love doing what I do. I love NHRA drag racing. I have great sponsors. I love to drive my race cars. And at my age, I'm 68 years old, I can still drive. It's not like NASCAR. You know, older the days are long, trust me, but you're not in the seat of that car for 3 hours straight. We got cars that run 330 miles an hour and less than, 4 seconds. But it's long days, engine building, taking care of the fans, doing promotions. It's a long day, but at the end, it's magic to me. I love driving these cars. NHRA drag racing's PT Barnum on the road, and we live on the road year-round.
As a novice, as most of us are, I mean, there's very few people on this planet that are going to experience what you experience sitting at that starting line 4 seconds later, 330 miles an hour plus. Try and give the audience some perspective as you're sitting there at the starting line, because I've seen you say the races are won and lost right there at the starting line. What is going on? Give a piece of that feeling at the beginning, during the race, the thrill, the excitement. Try and give a picture, a story for what this might feel like.
Well, first of all, you're talking two cars racing side by side. We race in what they call the funny car ranks. Two of my daughters and my son-in-law race in the funny cars like myself, and I have a daughter that races top fuel. You're talking about a car that's 10,000 horsepower, runs nitromethane, has a 12-man crew that take care of it between rounds, tear it apart, put it back together, and then they give you this hot rod to go to the start line. Nitromethane belching out of the pipes. You know that it's a 3 to 4 second run. My family just ran, Robert, Courtney, both ran 3:38, I think, last week, and 3:37 in Topeka. We're talking about going from a dead stop, more horsepower, one race car, 10,000 horsepower than the whole front row. In fact, the whole field at NASCAR, it's more horsepower than all their cars put together. And then a driver has to react. He's wearing fire gear. He's strapped in. Races are won or lost on the reaction to a Christmas tree. That's why you got to keep yourself fit. I'm heading to the gym tonight. Keep yourself in good shape. Keep the mind responding, because your whole future's out there in front of you. And when you hit that throttle, all hell breaks loose. And that car can leave the starting line, shake it so bad it can knock you out. It can carry the front end for 300-400 feet. It can set you on fire. That it can put you over the guardrail. I had a young kid that drove for me years ago that was killed in 05, 07. I crashed the same year. I was in the hospital for 6 weeks in rehab, just getting back where I could come back and win. And I've won 2 or 3 championships since then. Everything's out there, the pressure, the sweat. I've got a lot of experience. I know how to handle the pressure, and even sometimes it gets me. But it's really the joy of it, of the heat of battle being won with your race car. There can be a guy in the next lane you're racing. There can be a woman over there. A lot of women have evolved into our sport, not like NASCAR, where they have a few, or IndyCar, where they have a few. We have a lot of women over here in all the categories. And they do real good. They win races. My daughter Ashley was the first to ever win in a fuel funny car. And now, of course, Courtney's winning a ton of races. Pressure, stress, fear, all rolled into one. Yeah, but there's victory at the other end in that wind light. You step on that gas and you ride her out. And the parachutes come in at the end of that racetrack. You're either alive, or if it catches on fire, you go into fight mode. You go into fight mode to hit the fire bottles, to get on the brakes, get the parachutes out, because the only friend you got at that time is yourself, and you're waiting for Safety Safari, NHRA, to come get you. They're the only ones at the end of the line that's left to pull you out of a burning car. I paint a picture of it negative, but you ask what you think about. You really think about cutting the light, winning the race, getting the car from A to B, through tire shake, wheel stand, whatever it takes to get there. But all that other stuff is out there, because we always joke, not because I'm sponsored by Monster Energy, my daughter's car. I'm sponsored by Peak Motor Oil and Roberts with Auto Club, and Courtney's with Advanced Auto Parts, and we're always Chevrolet. But Matt Tool, all these sponsors that pay PPG, they want you to win at the end of the day. So that is your priority, but in the end, you got to be, in case that monster jumps up in the front seat with you, and I don't mean the drink you drink, I'm talking about a fireball or an explosion or whatever takes place. Or the 2 race cars run into each other. That's even happened.
John, as I listen to you talk, there's a certain, I think for most Americans listening, there's a certain cowboy attitude. But when it comes to the race, the preparation, the checklist, John Force has a system, and you follow that system like crazy, don't you?
Well, you live by it. I mean, we've lost some drivers out here over the years. It's going to happen. You get run over by a trash truck. They call us heroes and superstars, but we're not like the men and women in the military and the Army, Navy, and Air Force and Marines and National Guard. Those guys go to work every day, just like the police and firemen, knowing that they have to be the first responders. They got to be there to save lives. We do this, number one, to win a race. We do it because we love it, and we do it to entertain the fans and sell products. That's what it's all about. But we also know what's out there, and it can get ugly. But we do it because we love it. You know what I'm saying? We're like a fireman. We'll jump through a burning window. You know what I mean? To hear the cheer of the crowd. A little pathetic. Firemen have to do it. Military have to do it. We don't. We do it because we love it, but they love what they do, and that's saving lives. We do it to put on a show. And every now and then we need our own life saved. Hell, I've lasted over 4 decades, and like in any sport, somebody can get hurt. This sport of NHRA, I believe, is a safe sport.
Let me ask you, I'm curious, because I think in my world, there's so much talk of system, having your process that you follow all the time. Now, you don't have enough time in our short conversation today. We're going to be under an hour. We don't have enough time to explain everything that has to happen when you sit in the cockpit. But give people a broad overview of how you go down the checklist of getting everything done right before you hit the gas, before the Christmas tree comes down. Give people a sense of that. There's a lot of steps, isn't there?
You've heard of a golfer that loses his swing. You've got to be in the zone. You've got to go in there when you're pulling up to put on that first bulb to pre-stage, then stage, and then react to the amber. You don't want to wait for green or you're late. The bottom line is you go into a zone where you don't think about nothing. You take all the fear out of it. Your deal is to focus on that light, know that that car's straight, know that you got to hit that throttle on time, and you got to make magic. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in your team, and that's how you get the job done. I've got almost 150 wins. I've got 16 championships myself, 18 as a team owner, but I'm trained. I've always joked I'm trained like a monkey. You know what I mean? You could train a monkey to drive this hot rod if he did it for 4 decades. And I don't know if he could give a good interview as me, but bottom line, you train yourself to do this thing. And that's really hard to explain what goes through you, but you go into a zone and you don't think, you blank everything else out. The cheer of the crowd, everything, until you get to that interview at the other end.
John, let me take you back in time a little bit, because it's one thing to have nearly 4 decades of experience and be at the top of the game, but it's another thing to be starting out. I mean, you just didn't walk out there and going 330 miles an hour in 4 seconds. There was a certain progression to get you where you are today. Give me maybe some story early on when you first, even your start, that experience of getting to the point where you were really competing at the upper levels. It must have been quite an education to start to move up the ladder, so to speak.
It was starvation. It was hawking everything I had. It was leaving my family behind for months, sometimes driving the 18-wheeler to get to the next race. I tell people, don't do it because you want to be famous. Don't do it because you want to be rich. You know, maybe a few will make it, but the majority don't. But if you do it out of love and a passion for speed, then it all makes sense why you do it. But it has fed my family. It put my kids through college. Now my whole family works in my business. Nobody works on the outside. My granddaughter Autumn is 12 years old. She's driving a junior dragster. And my 2 grandsons, they'll either be hockey players or maybe they'll be drag racers. My daughter married Graham Rahal. He's an IndyCar driver. We're here for the Indy 500 this weekend. Who knows where the future goes? We give them opportunities, get them an education, get them through college. You know what I'm saying? And like my girls, and that's what we do. But let me tell you something. A lot of burn centers I've been in. I've been on fire from here to Australia. But I've crossed America. I know America only by the interstates. I haven't seen half the cities. You know what I'm saying? You go into town, you do a race, you're back on the interstate. Now I'm back on an airplane. My team travels with, I think, 10 or 12, 18-wheelers with Freightliners pulling them. And they live on the road. I've got 125 employees or close to it, 122, and they live it. Got shops in California and shops in Indy, and we build our own cars, build our own engines, paint our own cars. We do a little bit of everything. It's a great life. I can't complain.
You know, John, you mentioned the fire a moment ago, and you made the line about I've been on fire from Australia to here. You're going to be the only person on my podcast, and I've done over 500 episodes. The first person, probably the only person I'm going to ask this question, which is, when you're on fire, what is the first thing that you've trained yourself to do when you're on fire?
Well, first thing you train yourself to do is don't scream, don't open your mouth, don't suck in like, oh my God, because you're inhaling, and you'll suck fire right down your throat. I got burnt years ago because I went into panic in my early days, 40 years ago, inhaled a lot of smoke, and I talk hoarse to this day. I think it was because of the fire, or maybe just because I talked too much. The bottom line on it is that you go into fight mode. You know what you have to do. You know, you don't hit your parachutes right away because the fire will burn them off. You've got to wait for the fire to burn down, because usually it's a fuel explosion or oil, and it'll usually burn off. But if the body catches on fire, then you got to run away freight train. Now you got to get on the fire bottles. It'll probably burn your chutes off, and then you got to get this thing stopped because you're running out of ground real fast. At over 330 miles an hour, these things cover ground like you can't even imagine. On the brakes, not to burn the brakes out. Car gets hopping on you, you got to let loose of the brake, and that's hard to do under the fear of pressure. But you got to blank out that fear. But probably as much experience as I have, the fear is still there. You never get rid of it. You just know how to go into fight mode, and that's what you do to protect yourself.
John, I've seen some accounts of your career early on. Maybe this would be back in the 70s and 80s, where some peers, they didn't necessarily give the best accounting of you. They would perhaps say things, and they weren't as complimentary to you, and perhaps you weren't having the success then. What kept you going when you weren't winning early on?
Well, first of all, I'm the kind of guy, I don't let someone give me their opinion and direct me in the road of life. I do what I do. They only rekindled the fire if I was down, because I burned a car to the ground at Memphis, and I got out in the interview and said I saw Elvis at 1,000 foot. Hell, I got more newspaper out of being on fire and talking about Elvis and winning the race. and people, they love it. But if the competition don't like it, well, they were able to beat me up for the first 10 years. And then I beat them up for about 20.
You got them in the long run, huh? You've got more races, more victories than anybody, right?
Yeah, but I don't look back on that. Now they're beating me up real good, but I'm going to turn it around. It goes through the goods and bads, the highs and lows. But no, I just, if someone aggravates me, it just makes me work harder. That's the way my dad and mom taught me. I fight for what I want. I fight for my family. And Old Glory, the American flag. We got to fix this, the greatest country in the world.
You mentioned your mom and dad. Let me let you go back even farther, because I've seen accounting on your background, and there's some interesting personal history, especially your personal physical history overcoming polio. Why don't you speak to that? Because as a young person, that's a really tough thing. Kids are going to be tough on you, but you, again, the persistence seems to be right there with you at a very early age.
Yeah, born in 1949. The vaccine for polio didn't even come out till the 50s. I think I got it when I was first starting to walk, between 1 and 2 years old, and then I quit walking. They thought I had spinal meningitis, and they took me to a doctor. I was up in the logging camps of Oregon, and they said, no, this guy's got polio. There was no cure then. Scalding hot baths with your legs underwater to get stimulation. And I went through that, and it was rough on my family. I don't even remember it. I was too small. They're doing a book on me now, and they tell about all that story. A lot of it was from my brother that witnessed it and what I went through. But, part of life, you take what's thrown at you, and you keep fighting. So now they're growing up. My mom was a cook. My dad was a truck driver. I was just a crazy kid wanting to play football, wear a helmet, and hear the cheer of the crowd and have the camaraderie of a team. And I got that in drag racing, still wear a helmet, still hear the cheer of the crowd, and still got the camaraderie of a team. Life couldn't get better.
John, why has this passion that you're giving on this call, why do we not see this across America, frankly, other countries? What's happened today? What's happened to people today where they can't get excited? They can't have the passion. You're 68 years young. You sound like a teenager. What is wrong with society as a whole? How did we miss out on being, keeping that passion that you've got alive? What are we missing out on?
Well, I know a lot of people, my daughters, my son-in-law, my teammates, my employees, they've all got passion. And so do all the other guys and gals out there on the interstates running the roads with these 18-wheelers, going to these races. There's a lot of passion worldwide, but there's a lot of anger out there, and I don't know why. I know I have it some days, and I have to sit down and talk to myself and tell myself to straighten up. Life's good. A good Lord put us on this earth, and we got to work hard, take care of our families, and try to be good people. That's what I try to do. But some days I even have problems. Some people get stuck in the mud for a long time. I don't allow it. I talk my way out.
You mentioned that you're going to the gym in a few minutes. When will you stop? Is there any physical limitation that you see on yourself in the near future?
Well, I'm not kidding myself. Father Time's chasing me, or I'm chasing it. But bottom line, if I don't go to the gym, if I miss the gym, honestly, 3 days in a row, I go every other day. Some days I'll go 5 days in a row. Depends on my schedule. But my doctor said you'll never recover, from being in that hospital, for almost 2 months. My body lost a lot of its memory. And you train yourself. If you were young, if you're 30, you pop right back. I was 58, going on 60, 56, whatever age I was when I crashed. But bottom line, I'll never recover. So if I don't keep going to the gym, exercising, and doing everything I need to do, weightlifting, and trust me, I don't have no body of the Hulk. I ain't Superman, but I keep my body's memory. I keep the motion going. I know guys half my age can't touch their toes. You know what I'm saying? And I make sure that I can touch the ground every day. I don't want to just touch my toes. I want to know that I'm giving everything I can at my age, and it's tiring. There's some days when I'm done in a gym workout after 2 hours, I'll sit there for 30 minutes because it's like, man, just getting up's a job. But I love it. I keep my body in good shape. I keep my mind right, and I dream. And you get that energy up, get that blood pressure going. Get off that couch, America. Don't sit there. Don't say you're old and use it for an excuse. Get up and go to work. And I know it's tough because I've had days that I remember being in the hospital crying and telling my wife, I can't do this. This is impossible. She goes, I know John Force better than that. I know you. Keep going. And I worked my way through it. And I ain't going back. So I'm going to go till I drop. Hopefully it won't be in a rocking chair. Even though that's a pretty good idea some days, it'll probably be on a racetrack somewhere in America.
You know, you mismentioned dreaming. So with all this success that you've got under your belt, 4 decades of success, what do you dream about these days?
Look, I own 2 car museums. I got a big old house. I've got a place in Lake Tahoe.
That's not the most important stuff to you, though, is it?
No, none of it matters. It's nice to be able to get my family together and have a place for them to go and take a vacation at Christmas. I got sports cars that I don't even license, and motorcycles. Don't have time to drive them. I drive my Chevrolet every day, my pickup truck. I love it. It's got my music in it. I still listen to the Beach Boys and country, and that's the world I live in. I wake up to go racing. That's what I do. And a lot of guys say, oh man, we're on a 4 races in a row. That's going to be a real, backbreaker. I love it because I get into the mode of fight, and I don't like to get out of it. I like to keep training, keep running, keep racing. I do it because I ain't no different than I ain't nothing special. I'm no different than NASCAR or IndyCar or any kind of racing, motorcycle racing. I'm just a guy that loves what I do, and I'm very lucky, very fortunate, and I've done it well. And I'm going to keep doing it well. And the day I can't, then maybe I got to get out of the seat, but not today.
John, it's an inspiring story. I mean, I'm a self-made entrepreneur myself, but I love your story. I mean, you've got a few years on me, but it's one of those things where when you hear someone that's ahead of you and they're nowhere close to giving in or quitting or stopping, it's a motivating thing. And I think that it's motivating. And I think it's once you get to the point where you're at and you can't let go of the fight, maybe that is the feeling that keeps every entrepreneur alive and dreaming, just that I'm going to keep doing it. That's that thrill.
We're given the opportunity, living in America, the greatest country in the world. I believe that even though it's got all its problems, it's still the greatest. Okay? And we all have to do our part. We got to get up every day and go to work. We've got to entertain people in all walks of life. Whatever you do in a job, you have a reason. We do it for our families and we do it for love. We have men and women in the military that are overseas fighting and giving their lives. And we got nothing to complain about. They're protecting us. The least we can do is support them and build this country back to what it needs to be. It's still the greatest in the world, but it can be a whole lot better, and I'm going to keep fighting for it. I'm looking across at the American flag right out in front of my building. I got the tallest flagpole the city had let me have, and I have to put a new flag on it twice a year. I got them out at my shop in California, American flag. People say, why do you spend that kind of money? Are you kidding me? To let everybody know that I'm an American, and I'm proud of it. And we're a mixture of all kinds of people, and that's what makes us great. Only God knows where it's going to go, but I'm going to keep trying.
John, I wish you the best of luck. And I tell you, I think you've motivated me, and I'm sure you've motivated many in my audience that have not seen an NHRA funny car race in person to probably go find one now. I think everyone's going to go find John Force and let's see him ride.
Turn on your TVs. We're on Fox Sports. You can watch us every Sunday. And on Saturday and Friday qualifying, a lot of the great TV produced in-house at NHRA, drag racing, Mellow Yellow drag racing. Hey, we're P.T. Barnum. We don't even have elephants, but P.T. Barnum don't have elephants no more. We're the greatest show on earth. Come see us or watch us on Fox, and you'll be entertained. The ground will shake when you stand there on the starting line, and the rumble and the noise, and bring the families. They'll love it. We're all across America, 24 national events. I just say thank you for your show. You give a great interview. I love it. And yet you ask a lot of great questions. Like you said, you're building your own story, and anytime you need me, all you got to do is call my PR. They'll find me somewhere. Want to be on your show.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.